I had 45 seconds before dessert arrived and the bullets followed. My hands trembled as I balanced the tray of empty wine glasses, watching table 7 through the amber glow of chandelier light. The steakhouse hummed with the comfortable noise of wealth. Soft jazz, muted laughter, the clink of crystal against porcelain. Outside, rain hammered against the windows of Riverside Port City, washing the streets clean of sins they'd witnessed 1,000 times before. Nobody noticed me. Nobody ever did. That's the thing about being a black waitress in a restaurant where power brokers break bread and make deals that never see daylight. You become wallpaper, furniture, invisible. Which is exactly why I heard everything. 30 minutes ago, I'd been refilling water glasses near the kitchen when 3 men in expensive suits entered through the service entrance. Wrong entrance for customers. Wrong energy entirely. They moved like predators, all controlled violence and cold calculation. One of them caught my eye, smiled like a shark, and said in accented English, "You didn't see us, sweetheart." I nodded, kept my head down, kept moving. Survival instinct honed from 28 years of learning when to speak and when to disappear. But I'd seen them, seen the tattoos crawling up their necks, seen the bulges under their jackets, seen them position themselves strategically, one near the bar, 2 flanking the emergency exits. They weren't customers. They were an execution squad, and their target sat at table 7, completely unaware that his fiancée had just orchestrated his murder. Kang Min-jae commanded attention without demanding it. 43 years old, dressed in a Tom Ford suit that cost more than 6 months of my rent, with silver threading through his black hair and eyes that had seen too much to ever be truly soft. He sat with his back to the glass wall overlooking the river, the city lights painting halos around his shoulders like he was something divine instead of something dangerous. Everyone in this city knew his name, even if they pretended not to. Korean Mafia, the man who'd turned 3 failing nightclubs into an empire that stretched from here to Seattle. The man politicians called when they needed problems solved quietly. The man whose world operated in shadows the law couldn't reach. But right now, he looked almost peaceful. Laughing at something his date said, reaching across the white tablecloth to touch her hand with surprising gentleness. I'd served them before, recognized her immediately. Tall, elegant, with dark hair swept into a chignon and diamond earrings that caught the light like frozen tears. Carolina something, European accent. Society pages had eaten up their engagement announcement last month. Power couple, romance for the ages, except I'd just heard her on the phone in the wine cellar, speaking rapid Italian to someone she called fratello, brother. Confirming positions, confirming timing, confirming that inexactly. I glanced at the clock. 43 seconds, when dessert service began and everyone was distracted. Her fiancé would die. My reflection in the polished brass of the service station looked ghost pale. I could walk away, clock out early, say I felt sick. Let whatever was about to happen just happen. Men like Kang Min-jae didn't build empires by being gentle. He'd earned enemies. Maybe he deserved this. But then I thought about my father in that VA hospital bed, hooked up to machines that counted his remaining heartbeats. I thought about every nurse who'd stayed late to hold his hand when morphine wasn't enough. Every doctor who'd fought insurance companies for one more treatment, one more chance. I thought about mercy unearned and freely given. I thought, I can't just let someone die. So I grabbed a napkin from my apron, clicked my pen, and wrote 9 words in shaking handwriting. They're here. 3 men. Move now. Trust me. Your espresso, sir. My voice came out steady, professional. Like I hadn't just overheard a murder plot. Like my heart wasn't trying to punch through my rib cage. I set the small cup down on the white tablecloth with precision, then did the thing every server is trained never to do. I touched him. My thumb pressed against the back of Min Jae's hand as I slid the folded napkin beneath his saucer. The contact lasted maybe half a second, a violation of every boundary between his world and mine, but long enough for his eyes to snap to mine. They were darker than I expected. Not cold, but calculating. The kind of eyes that saw through skin and bone straight into intention. Intelligence lived there, and something else I couldn't name. Loneliness, maybe, or the exhausted recognition of someone who'd been fighting so long he'd forgotten what peace looked like. Read it, I mouthed silently. Please. His fingers curled around the napkin, palm covering it completely. Carolina continued talking beside him, unaware. Her red lips curved in a smile that looked genuine if you didn't know she'd ordered his death. I stood there, empty tray pressed against my chest like a shield, watching Min Jae's face for any reaction. Nothing. Not a flicker. Not a flinch. Just those dark eyes scanning my handwriting beneath the table where Carolina couldn't see. Then his jaw tightened, imperceptible unless you were looking for it. The smallest tell that he understood. Naomi. His voice was smooth, controlled. That's your name, correct? I blinked, surprised he knew it. Yes, sir. Tell me. He set down his espresso with a soft clink that somehow cut through the ambient restaurant noise. Do you believe in intuition? Carolina's smile flickered. Min, darling, what an odd question. Not odd. Necessary. He kept his eyes on me. Well, Naomi, do you trust your gut? My throat felt desert dry. Yes, sir. I do. Good. So do I. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against hardwood. I'd like to speak with your manager about an issue with my reservation. Now. Min, we haven't had dessert yet. Carolina's voice carried a thread of panic disguised as confusion. I've lost my appetite. He extended his elbow to me with deliberate formality, and I understood. He needed a reason to move, to leave the kill zone, to take me with him as a human shield against suspicion. Naomi will escort me. Sir, I can get the manager. You'll escort me. Not a request. I took his arm, felt the coiled strength beneath expensive fabric, felt his pulse steady and strong. We walked toward the kitchen entrance, moving with purpose, but not panic. Professional. Normal. Just an annoyed customer and an apologetic waitress. But I saw the 3 men notice, saw hands drift toward jackets, saw the calculation in their eyes. Was this part of the plan? Had something changed? We were 10 feet from the kitchen doors when Min Jae whispered in Korean, a language I wasn't supposed to understand but did, having grown up in Koreatown. When we go through those doors, stay behind me. Don't run. Don't scream. Just trust me. The kitchen doors swung open and the lights went out. Darkness swallowed Riverside Steakhouse whole. Not gradual. Not flickering. Absolute and instant. Like someone had thrown a blanket over the world. The jazz quartet died mid-note. Crystal glasses hit the floor in cascading crashes. A woman screamed. Min Jae moved. 1 second I was standing upright. The next, He'd pulled me through the kitchen doors with enough force to steal my breath, spinning me behind a stainless steel prep station just as the first gunshot cracked the air. The emergency lighting kicked in, dim red bulbs that turned everything into a hellscape of shadows and blood-colored illumination. The kitchen erupted in chaos. Chefs shouted in Spanish and Korean as pans clattered. Through the crimson haze, I saw figures moving with purpose that had nothing to do with cooking. Min-jae's hand pressed against my shoulder, keeping me down, keeping me hidden. I watched him transform. The gentle man who'd laughed at dinner vanished. What remained was something colder, something that had survived by being more dangerous than anything that hunted him. A man burst through the kitchen doors, one of the three from earlier. Not in his suit jacket anymore, gun raised, eyes scanning. Min-jae was on him before I could blink. He moved like violence was a language he'd spoken since birth. Caught the gunman's wrist, twisted with surgical precision. Bone cracked. The weapon clattered across tile. Min-jae drove his knee into the man's solar plexus, then his elbow into the bridge of his nose with enough force that I heard cartilage shatter. The man went down hard, unconscious before he hit the ground. Two more came through the swinging doors. And that's when I stopped being afraid and started being something else entirely. My father was Army. Not the kind who talked about it, but the kind who woke up screaming some nights and taught his daughter things civilian children shouldn't know. How to read a room for threats. How to identify exits. How to use everyday objects as weapons. How to stay calm when the world went to hell, because panic kills faster than bullets. He'd also taught me Taekwondo from age 6, made me spar with boys twice my size, told me that being underestimated was the greatest tactical advantage a woman could have. I grabbed the chef's knife from the prep station, 8 inches of German steel, perfectly balanced, and assessed the situation with sudden, crystalline clarity. 2 men advancing on Min-jae from opposite sides. One had a clear shot, the other was flanking. Min-jae could take one, but not both. Not fast enough. I didn't think, didn't hesitate. I threw the knife. Not at the men. I wasn't trained for that. Wasn't a killer despite what my hands suddenly remembered. I threw it at the overhead pot rack suspended above them. The blade severed the chain. 20 pounds of cast iron cookware crashed down in a thunderous avalanche of metal. Both men dove for cover, shots going wide, precious seconds lost. Min-jae used those seconds. He was on the first man instantly, disarming him with brutal efficiency. The second man scrambled up, weapon rising, finger on the trigger. I grabbed a sauté pan from the still-hot burner and swung with everything I had. The pan connected with his skull with a sickening thud. He dropped like a marionette with cut strings. Silence fell. Emergency lights painted everything in shades of hell. 3 men lay unconscious or worse on the kitchen floor. Min-jae stood among them, breathing hard, suit torn at the shoulder. A thin line of blood trickling from his hairline where someone had clipped him. He turned to look at me. Really look at me for the first time. I still held the pan, chest heaving, adrenaline singing through my veins like electricity. Our eyes met across the wreckage. "You fight," he said in Korean, his voice rough with shock and something else, something that sounded like recognition. "How?" "My father," I answered in the same language, watching his eyes widen. "He taught me to survive." "Who was your father?" "Someone like you. Someone who knew that being underestimated keeps you alive." More footsteps thundered in the dining room. Sirens wailed in the distance, police, ambulances, the chaos bleeding into official channels where everything would be documented, investigated, sanitized for public consumption. "Come with me," Min-jae said urgently. "Now! I don't even know you. You saved my life." His hand extended toward me, steady despite the violence we'd just survived. That means something in my world. That means I owe you protection. And right now, you need it. Because Carolina's people would know I'd warned him, would know I'd fought beside him, would mark me as a threat or an asset or both. I looked at his outstretched hand, looked at the men we'd left broken on the floor, looked at the life I'd been living, invisible, small, safe, and realized it had just ended. So I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and certain, and he pulled me through the kitchen's back exit into the rain-soaked night, into his world, into a story I didn't know I'd been waiting my whole life to live. Min Jae's car waited in the alley, a black Mercedes with bulletproof glass, and a driver who didn't blink when we emerged from the chaos covered in other people's blood. "Drive!" Min Jae commanded in Korean. "The safe house." The driver nodded, pulled smoothly into traffic. Through the rear window, I watched police cars converge on Riverside Steakhouse, watched uniformed officers pour into the building we'd just fled. "You're shaking," Min Jae observed quietly. I looked down. He was right. My hands trembled like autumn leaves in wind, adrenaline crash hitting hard and fast. "I'm fine. You're not." He shrugged out of his suit jacket, torn and bloodstained, but still worth more than I made in a month, and draped it over my shoulders. The fabric was warm from his body heat, smelled like sandalwood and gunpowder. "But you will be. Why did you believe me?" The question burst out before I could stop it. "In the restaurant. You didn't know me. I could have been lying." Min Jae studied me with those dark, ancient eyes. "Because," he said slowly, "in the 3 years I've been eating at Riverside, you're the only server who never once smiled at me." I blinked. "What?" "Everyone smiles. Everyone performs. It's human nature when facing power. Appease, defer, make yourself agreeable. But you," he leaned back against the leather seat, "you looked through me like I was furniture. No fear, no flattery. Just indifference. That's rare. That's real. I was just trying to be professional." "Number." A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "You were trying to be invisible. And people who work that hard to disappear usually have good reasons. So when you risked visibility to warn me, I knew it was real. Knew you'd seen something worth breaking cover for." His insight was unsettling. Accurate. I'd spent years perfecting invisibility, believing safety lived in being unremarkable. And he'd seen through it in seconds. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere Carolina's people won't find you." He pulled out his phone, typed rapidly in Korean. "Somewhere I can figure out what happens next. What happens next is I go home, forget this night, and get killed within 48 hours. His voice was flat, certain. "You think Carolina doesn't know you warned me?" She had eyes everywhere tonight. "By now, she knows you interfered, knows you fought. That makes you a witness and a threat. I'm nobody. A waitress who speaks Korean." His eyes narrowed. "That's interesting, by the way. Naomi what?" "Carter." "Naomi Carter. And where does Naomi Carter learn to speak Korean well enough to understand battlefield commands? Where does she learn to fight like someone with military training? Where does she learn to assess tactical situations in split seconds?" My throat tightened. "My father was Army." I figured. What else? Nothing else. He served. He taught me things. He died. That's all you need to know. Min Jae regarded me steadily. "Everything you just said is true, and absolutely none of it is the whole truth." He leaned forward slightly. "I'm very good at reading people, Naomi. It's kept me alive in a world where trust kills. And right now, you're hiding something almost as big as the secret Carolina kept. I'm not your enemy." "I know. If you were, I'd be dead." His smile held no warmth. "But you're not quite an ally either. Not yet. You're something in between. Something complicated." The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a building I didn't recognize. The driver parked, exited, opened Min-jae's door with silent efficiency. We took an elevator that required a keycard, rose to the top floor in silence, heavy with unspoken questions. The penthouse he led me into was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, minimalist furniture in blacks and grays, art on the walls that probably cost 6 figures. But it was cold, beautiful and empty, like a museum or a mausoleum. "Bedrooms through there." Min-jae gestured to a hallway. "Bathroom stocked. There's clothes in the closet, my sister's. She stays here sometimes. Should fit you reasonably well." "Your sister?" "Lives in Seoul. Visits quarterly." He moved to a bar cart, poured amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. "You're safe here. 6 security cameras, armed guards in the building, reinforced walls. Nothing gets in without my knowledge." He handed me a glass. I took it but didn't drink. "This is a cage," I said quietly. "Yes." His honesty was startling, "but it's a cage that keeps you alive. And while you're here, you're going to tell me everything about your father, about your training, about why a woman who fights like an operative is serving drinks in a mid-tier steakhouse. And if I refuse, then you'll do it voluntarily eventually, or under duress when Carolina's people find you and ask much less politely." His eyes held mine. "I'm offering protection, Naomi, but protection costs. The price is truth." I should have been terrified, should have felt trapped. But standing there in his expensive penthouse, holding whiskey I hadn't asked for, facing a man who'd just killed multiple people with his bare hands, I felt something else entirely. Recognition. Like looking in a mirror that showed not my face, but my father's. 3 days, I said. "Give me 3 days to process what just happened. Then I'll tell you what you want to know." Min-jae considered this, then nodded slowly. 3 days. But you stay here. No leaving. No calls. No contact with anyone from your old life. Because your old life just ended. The first day, I barely left the guest room. Shock settled into my bones like winter cold. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the gunman's nose breaking under Min-jae's elbow. Heard the sickening thud of the pan connecting with skull. Felt the weight of the knife in my hand. I'd hurt people. Maybe killed one. The man I'd hit. There'd been so much blood. Around noon, Min-jae knocked softly. I didn't answer, but heard him enter anyway, heard the clink of porcelain on wood. "Left you soup," he said in Korean, "and painkillers, in case you're hurting." Then quieter. "The man you hit is alive. Concussion, but alive. You're not a killer, Naomi. Remember that." The door closed. I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember how to breathe. By evening, hunger drove me out. I found Min-jae at the floor-to-ceiling windows, silhouetted against the city lights, holding a glass of whiskey and staring at the river like it held answers. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning. "Can you?" "Not for years." He glanced at me. "Found the soup?" "It was good. Thank you. My grandmother's recipe. The only thing she taught me that didn't involve violence or survival." A pause. "She died when I was 14. Cancer. After that, there was only my father's world." I moved to stand beside him, keeping careful distance. The city sprawled below. Millions of lights, millions of lives, completely unaware of the darkness that made their safety possible. My father was Black Ops, I said suddenly, the truth spilling out like water from a cracked dam. He didn't talk about it. But sometimes he'd wake up screaming. Sometimes I'd find him sitting in the dark at 3 a.m., gun in his hand, watching the door like enemies might burst through any second. Min-jae turned to face me fully, giving me his complete attention. He met my mother at a bar in Seoul. She was visiting from the States. They fell in love fast. Too fast. By the time she realized what he did, what he'd done, she was pregnant with me. I swallowed against the tightness in my throat. She tried to make it work, tried to believe he could leave that life. But you can't leave some things. They follow you. How did he die? Lung cancer, officially. But he'd been exposed to chemicals in the field. Classified missions no one would ever acknowledge. She looked at Min-jae. He taught me Korean because it was the only part of his past that wasn't violent. Taught me to fight because he knew the world was dangerous. Told me to stay invisible because men like you would either use me or eliminate me. Men like me, Min-jae repeated softly. Did he know men like me? He knew your world. Maybe not you specifically, but people who operated in shadows, people who solved problems that couldn't be solved legally. I met his eyes. That's why I recognized you. Not your face, your energy. You move like he moved, see threats like he saw them, carry the same weight, the weight of necessary evils. Yes. Silence settled between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who understood that some truths couldn't be spoken, only witnessed. I owe you my life, Min-jae said finally. In my world, that creates a bond, a responsibility. You're under my protection now, for however long you need it. I don't need protection. I need answers. I turned to face him fully. Carolina, why would she want you dead? His jaw tightened. Because I was about to discover her family's been using my territory for human trafficking, moving women and children through my ports, my warehouses, without my knowledge. His hands clenched. I don't traffic humans. It's the one line I won't cross. When I found evidence, when I confronted her, she decided killing you was easier than explaining. Yes. He drained his whiskey. Her brother runs the operation. Carolina was supposed to marry me, merge our families, gain enough access to hide the trafficking permanently, but I was getting too close to the truth. So she ordered the hit, with perfect timing. During the engagement dinner, her brother suggested, romantic venue, unsuspecting target. He laughed bitterly. I was a fool. No, I stepped closer. You were someone trying to believe in something good. That's not foolishness. That's hope. His eyes met mine, and something shifted in them. Softened. You're remarkably kind for someone whose father taught her the world is dangerous. My father taught me the world is dangerous. My mother taught me it's still worth protecting. I smiled sadly. She died when I was 16. After that, there was only his voice in my head, telling me to hide, to survive, to never trust anyone. And yet, you trusted me. I trusted my instincts, and my instincts said you were worth saving. Why? Because, I said quietly, when you looked at Carolina, I saw something in your eyes. Something gentle. Something that didn't belong in the world you inhabit. And I thought, maybe that's the part worth protecting, not the mafia boss. The man underneath. Min-jae stared at me like I'd spoken a language he'd forgotten existed. Then, slowly, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was tender, devastating in its simplicity. "You're dangerous, Naomi Carter. Not because you can fight, because you make me want to be the man you think I could be." My breath caught. His hand lingered at my cheek, warm and certain. That's when his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read the message, and every trace of gentleness vanished from his face. "What is it?" "Carolina. She's escalating. 3 of my warehouses were just hit simultaneously. She's declaring war." By dawn, Min-jae's living room had transformed into a war room. Maps covered the dining table. Laptops displayed security feeds. 6 men in dark suits moved through the space with military precision, speaking rapid Korean into phones and earpieces. I stood at the periphery, watching Min-jae orchestrate. He'd changed into tactical gear, black cargo pants, fitted shirt, shoulder holster visible. The civilized veneer stripped away, revealing the soldier beneath. "Naomi," he gestured me over. "I need your eyes on something." He pulled up security footage on a laptop. Grainy video showed hooded figures entering a warehouse, moving with practiced efficiency. They knew the layout, knew where the cameras were. "Inside job," I said immediately. "These aren't random thugs. They're trained, and someone gave them access codes." "My thought exactly." Min-jae's expression was grim. "Which means Carolina has someone in my organization, someone feeding her intel." "How many people have full access?" 12. All people I've worked with for years. People I trust. Trusted. Past tense now. I studied the footage again, noticed something. There. I pointed at a figure hanging back from the others. Different body language. Hesitant. "That's your leak." Not confident like the others. Guilty. Min-jae enhanced the image, cursed in Korean. "Marcus. My head of warehouse operations. 10 years with me. Maybe he had no choice. Carolina's family is good at leverage, threats, blackmail, finding the pressure points. Doesn't matter." He looked at me, eyes hard. He betrayed me. In this world, intention is irrelevant. Only action counts. So what happens now? Now? Min-jae straightened. Now we use him, feed him false information, make him think I'm planning to flee the city. And when Carolina moves her pieces based on that lie, we strike where she's actually vulnerable. I thought of my father, of the calculations he must have made in the field, the difficult choices, the necessary sacrifices. "What do you need from me?" Min-jae studied me for a long moment. "I need you to meet with Marcus. You're not part of my organization. He doesn't know you. You can approach him as someone from Carolina's side, someone verifying his loyalty. You want me to be bait. I want you to be the weapon Carolina never saw coming." He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. "You speak Korean. You think tactically. You're unknown to both sides. That makes you invaluable, or it makes me a target from everyone. Yes." He didn't lie, didn't soften it. "This is dangerous. You could die." "You could, but if we pull this off, we end Carolina's operation, save the trafficking victims she's moving through my territory, and dismantle her family's power base before they dismantle mine. And if we don't pull it off, then we both die, probably violently." His hand found my shoulder. "I won't blame you if you say no. This isn't your fight." But it was. The moment I'd written that warning, the moment I'd fought beside him, it became my fight. My father spent his whole life in shadows. doing things that haunted him. I swallowed hard. He told me once that the worst missions were the ones where you did nothing, where you saw evil and walked away because it wasn't your assignment. Min-jae waited, patient. "This is my assignment." I met his eyes. "Tell me what to do." Marcus preferred to meet at a coffee shop in Koreatown. Public enough to seem safe, crowded enough to hide surveillance. I arrived early, dressed in clothes borrowed from Min-jae's sister. Designer jeans, cashmere sweater, looking like someone with money and power instead of a waitress who'd stumbled into war. Min-jae's voice came through the nearly invisible earpiece. "He just parked. Black sedan, 3 cars back. Remember, you're from Carolina's family. You're there to verify his intel and deliver his next payment." I sipped coffee I didn't taste, watching the door. Marcus entered, mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, expensive watch, face lined with stress. He scanned the room with the wariness of someone who knew he was being hunted, spotted me, hesitated. I gave the signal, setting my coffee cup on the napkin Carolina's people had specified. He approached, slid into the seat across from me. "You're not who I expected. Carolina prefers to keep her assets compartmentalized." I spoke in English with what I hoped sounded like a European accent. "You understand why?" "Yes." His hands trembled slightly as he ordered tea from the passing server. "Is she pleased with the intel?" "She's pleased you managed to hit 3 locations simultaneously. Less pleased that you didn't get the cargo manifests. Those are in Min-jae's personal safe. I don't have access." "Then get access." I leaned forward. "Carolina needs those documents. They prove what she's been moving through his territory. Without them, she can't blackmail him effectively." "I'm trying." Marcus's voice cracked. "But he's paranoid now. After the restaurant, after you people tried to kill him." "We didn't try. We would have succeeded if not for that waitress." I watched his face carefully. "The one who warned him." "Do you know her?" "No, I've never seen her before." His confusion seemed genuine. "Why would a civilian interfere? That's what we're trying to determine." I pulled an envelope from my purse, slid it across the table. "Your payment. And your next assignment." "Which is?" "Min-jae is planning to move his operation. Relocate to Seattle, abandon the port entirely. Carolina needs to know when and where." Marcus opened the envelope, eyes widening at the cash inside. "This is generous. Loyalty pays well. Betrayal pays better." I stood. "We'll be in touch. Expect another call within 24 hours." I walked out without looking back, feeling Marcus's eyes on me, feeling the weight of lies layered on lies. In the car 2 blocks away, Min-jae was smiling. "Perfect. You were perfect." He believed I was from Carolina? Completely. Which means, by tonight, she'll know I'm planning to flee. She'll move her people to Seattle, set up an ambush there. He started the engine. "While she's looking north, we'll hit her actual operation here. The trafficking network." "Yes." He glanced at me. "We have one chance at this. One window before she realizes we fed her false intel." "When?" "Tonight. We move tonight." The warehouse sat on the docks, rusted steel and broken windows, looking abandoned to anyone who didn't know better. But Min-jae's intel, real intel from the few people in his organization still loyal, confirmed this was where Carolina's family held the trafficking victims before transport. We parked 3 blocks away. Min-jae and 8 of his men, all armed, all moving with the precision of soldiers. And me, because I'd refused to stay behind, refused to be protected while others fought. You stay back, Min Jae instructed. If shooting starts, I can shoot. My father taught me that too. He looked at me, something complicated crossing his face. I'm trying very hard not to think about how capable you are. It's distracting. Save the distraction for later. Right now, we have work to do. The assault happened fast. Min Jae's men breached the side entrance while another team cut the power. In the darkness, chaos erupted. Shouts in Italian and Korean, flashlight beams cutting through shadows, the crack of gunfire. Min Jae moved through it like a ghost, lethal and efficient. I followed, staying low, watching his back like he'd taught me in the hours of preparation. We found them in the basement, 17 women and 3 children locked in shipping containers, terrified and malnourished. Most didn't speak English. Many were Korean. All were victims of a system that treated humans like cargo. Min Jae spoke to them in gentle Korean, explaining they were safe, explaining he was taking them somewhere with food and medical care, explaining he would help them contact families or find new lives, whatever they needed. And I watched him transform again. Not the mafia boss, not the killer. The man who'd looked at Carolina with softness. The man who drew lines and refused to cross them. The man I was falling for despite every logical reason not to. Above us, gunfire intensified. Carolina's people had arrived, alerted by the silence from their guards. We were trapped, surrounded, outgunned. Get them out, Min Jae ordered his men. Use the escape tunnel. Now. And you? One of his lieutenants asked. I'll buy you time. Go. I'm staying. I stepped beside him, ignoring his sharp look. You need someone watching your 6, and I'm not leaving you to die alone. Naomi. No arguments. I loaded the gun he'd given me, surprised by how natural it felt. My father's training. How many times had he made me practice in the Nevada desert, telling me to pray I'd never need it but prepare like I would? Min Jae stared at me for one long moment, then nodded. Together then, together. We held them off for 6 minutes. 6 minutes of carefully rationed ammunition, strategic positioning, and sheer desperate determination. 6 minutes that let 17 women and 3 children escape through tunnels built for smuggling but repurposed for salvation. 6 minutes that changed everything. When the gunfire finally stopped, when the silence fell heavy and complete, Carolina herself descended the stairs. She was still beautiful, still elegant, but her eyes held something feral now. Something that had lost and knew it. Min Jae. Her voice echoed in the empty space. You've been busy. He stood, hands raised, weapon lowered. It's over, Carolina. The victims are gone. My people have already contacted federal agents with evidence of your family's operation. By dawn, this will be an international incident. She laughed, sharp and bitter. You think laws apply to families like mine? We've bought judges, senators, police chiefs. A pause. We own this city as much as you do. Owned, past tense. Min Jae's voice was steel. Because I just burned every bridge, every connection, every dirty dealing that propped up my empire. Turned over evidence on myself, on my operation, everything. I'm choosing the clean slate of prosecution over the slow corruption of complicity. Carolina's eyes narrowed. You're insane. No, just tired. Tired of being what my father made me. Tired of maintaining power built on suffering. He glanced at me. Someone showed me there might be another way. The waitress. Carolina followed his gaze, really seeing me for the first time. The one who warned you. I stood slowly, stepping out of shadow. The one who wasn't going to let you murder someone in a restaurant where families were eating dinner. Where children were celebrating birthdays, where old couples were having anniversaries. You ruined everything, Carolina hissed. No. I just reminded him that some things are worth more than power. That survival isn't the same as living. Behind Carolina, her men shifted, weapons raised. But before anyone could fire, the warehouse flooded with red and blue lights. Sirens wailed. Federal agents poured through every entrance. Tactical gear, rifles, loudspeakers demanding surrender. Min-jae had kept one final secret. The moment we'd entered this warehouse, he'd activated a tracker that alerted the FBI task force he'd been secretly cooperating with for months. He'd been planning his exit from this life long before I'd written that warning. I'd just given him a reason to accelerate the timeline. 6 months later, I stood at a different window, watching rain wash Seattle streets clean. The apartment was smaller than Min-jae's penthouse had been. Warmer, somehow. More lived in. He emerged from the bedroom, no longer in suits or tactical gear, but jeans and a sweater, looking younger without the weight of an empire on his shoulders. Coffee? He offered in Korean. Please. We'd both testified, both cooperated. The FBI had offered witness protection, new identities, but Min-jae had refused. I'm done hiding, he'd said. I'll face whatever consequences come. Those consequences had been surprisingly lenient. Probation, community service, asset forfeiture, but no prison time in exchange for his cooperation in dismantling not just Carolina's family, but several other trafficking networks. And me? I'd been cleared of any wrongdoing. Self-defense, civilian intervention, heroic, even, according to some news articles I tried not to read. But the nightmares still came. Still woke me at 3 a.m., heart pounding, seeing the gunman's broken face. Min-jae would find me in those moments, wouldn't try to talk me out of the fear, would just sit with me in silence until dawn. The way I sat with him when he woke, screaming in Korean about his father, about the things he'd done to survive, about the person he'd been forced to become. We were broken people, learning to be whole. It wasn't romantic or easy. Some days were harder than others. Some days we barely spoke, both drowning in separate traumas. But we were trying, building something new from the ruins of who we'd been. You know, I said, watching rain trace patterns on glass. My father told me once that the hardest thing about his work wasn't the violence. It was coming home afterward, trying to be normal when you'd seen abnormal things. And Min-jae moved to stand beside me, our reflections overlapping in the window. And I think I finally understand what he meant. I turned to face him. We can't erase what we've done, what we've seen. But maybe we can build something good on top of it, layer by layer, day by day. Is that what we're doing? Building something good? I think we're trying, and sometimes trying is enough. He smiled, rare and genuine, the smile he'd only started showing in recent weeks. My grandmother used to say that rain is the sky's way of washing away old debts, making everything clean so new things can grow. Smart woman. She would have liked you. She liked people who fought for things that mattered. Did I fight for something that mattered? You fought for me, he said quietly, when you had every reason to walk away, to stay invisible, to let fate take its course. You fought. That matters. We stood together as rain drummed against glass, two survivors finding shelter in each other, finding hope in the possibility that yesterday's monsters could become tomorrow's protectors. The world outside continued. Dangerous, beautiful, complicated. But in this small apartment in a city we were learning to call home, we'd found something neither of us had expected. Peace, fragile and new, but real. And that was enough. That was everything.